Okay, we are, whoops. Okay. Becca, where'd you go? There you are. We are live. We're having some technical difficulties, but what else is new in internet land? I am Karen Ray. This is Fave Lifestyles. We are going live today, and my guest is Becca Alder. Becca, welcome to Fave.
Thank you so much. And just a quick, it's Adler.
Adler, I'm sorry. And
okay, it happens all the time.
Well, we should probably get your name right. That would be lovely, huh, Adler? Okay. Thank you so much for correcting that, because we want the ladies to get to know you. And today we are going to be talking about how moms can regain their sanity at work and home. I love this topic.
Yes, so do I. I think it's so important.
Yes, you know, in today's world, I mean, the moms are starting to get back to school with their kids. They're working, they're running their homes, they're doing all these different things, and there's so much. Oh, I'm so thankful that my kids are a little bit older, but I know there's a lot of women in our community here too that are grandmothers that are helping their daughters or sons out with the kiddos. And how does everybody stay sane?
Yes. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's all something we're all kind of wondering about as it feels like our sanity is slipping away. I think the one thing with the pandemic and COVID is that whatever we were experiencing before, it's just been heightened. And so you're seeing a little more maybe cracks in the way, the things that weren't working well, it's becoming harder to ignore them. So I think really one of the ways that we can kind of regain our sanity is to focus on well-being and making sure that that foundation of well-being is in place. One of the things that I've noticed is that when I go off the rails a little bit with my family, and then I look back, I'm like, okay, well, what happened there? It's because I didn't have some time to myself. I wasn't able to fill my cup, and then I wasn't really had enough resources to deal with whatever was coming up at that moment. Right. And so that's pretty much my number one tip is really make sure your well-being is taken care of.
Yes. So let's pause for just a second. Let's just talk a little bit about you and what you do and how you have come to be here at Fave Lifestyles as our guest. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my background is actually in corporate marketing. I spent a little over 20 years doing lots of different roles in the corporate marketing world. But in like 2003, when my daughter was born, things started to shift for me. My company got bought out. I had a super long commute. And quite frankly, the new job did not fit well. It was not a good fit culturally. And so I had to make a big decision about what I wanted to do. And so I hired a career coach who completely changed my life and put me on a new direction. And I realized what I wanted out of my life and my next career was freedom and flexibility. And I couldn't actually find that in the corporate world. So I had to create the job for myself. And so I became an entrepreneur so that I can also help other working moms who are looking to make a change in their career and bring them a little more sanity.
Yeah, I love that piece. And I was looking for that in the notes here. And it's like, I remember you saying just helping women keep their sanity because, you know, women, I am finding that there's a big shift. And I know there's a big shift probably right now with women, you know, wondering how they can maintain their careers. Do they need to make a shift? How are they going to do that? And even women who I find in their 50s or approaching their 50s, they're making a big career shifts too. It's like, do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to do this? Do I want to make an impact? What is the next season going to look like? And how do you do all of that and staying sane?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think there's a couple things that come to mind. And I think one thing is, you know, really getting clear on your vision. Like, what is it that you see yourself doing? And one way to kind of help you figure that out is to do a values exercise. And this is something I take my clients through. This is something I've done myself several times, because what you might find on different stages in your life, after different life events, your values may change. What's important to me before I had kids isn't as important to me now that I have kids, right? That's why when I did the, you know, values exercise, I realized that freedom and flexibility were really important to me. So then getting clear on, you know, where you are and what your values are and having those in priority order, maybe your top 3, can help inform what you want to do next and where you want to go from there.
Yes. Okay. So we're having some, actually, the girls are really excited that you're here, that somebody says,
Yay.
"Oh, career coach, yay." Because there's all these pieces. So here at Faith Lifestyles, we're helping women thrive in life, not just mentally and emotionally, but in our actual practical, careers and business and all those types of things. So I'm so excited that you're here talking about this. One of the ladies says, "My goal is to stay sane through the end of the year."
That's a brilliant goal. And I would even say, you try it putting it smaller. How about you stay sane today? And then you stay sane the next day.
Yes. And one of the ladies is asking if you offer a values exercise.
I do. Absolutely. All you have to do is contact me at beccaadler.com, and I'm happy to send that along.
Yes, very cool. So we've got some other things here. So how did you start working? Because your niche is moms in particular.
Yeah. So it's kind of silly. Sometimes you have to start working with people like you, and that's who I'm really most passionate about working with, is other working moms who are, in a place where they really want some more support and they want some kind of change, and maybe they don't know what exactly that change is, or they don't know how to get there, but they just know that something needs to be different. And that's really why I love working with this mom, because in our culture, there really isn't that deep level support. We don't necessarily have those mentors in our lives. Oh. We don't have that sense of community that you hear about, back in times of past. So we have to seek out those places of connection, those places of community. And that's why I love to do what I do, is to be that support for other working moms. It's the support that I got when I asked for it, and now it's my privilege to be able to offer it to other working moms.
Right. So cool. So in that support piece, because that's what we do a lot here today, is we connect people to those support people, our experts here at Fave Lifestyles. And so we can help encourage each other. And this is not on our notes, so we're going to go a little off notes here too. Okay. Talking about that support piece, what do you think is the number one thing that women are looking for in support when they're going through maybe a career change, or even just trying to stay sane? What do you?
So, I actually, was doing a lot of research, on working moms, and one of the common themes that I found was connection and friendship, and those are things that we sometimes let go by the wayside. Often working moms feel really isolated. We feel like they're the only one going through this, but the truth is not. This is very universal. Whatever you feel like you're the only one going through, you're not. It's very normal. But somehow when you connect with another working mom, not your husband or maybe even a parent, but there's something about the connection with another friend or someone who can walk alongside you and just hear what you have to say. It's really powerful. And some of us, we already have those people in our lives. Sometimes we have to, invest to get those people in our lives. And I think that's really the most important piece, is that connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And, as we are all working from home, that isolation and that connection, oh my gosh, I think I think a lot of people are probably feeling that. So it's good to be able to connect here, and at least we're getting a little connection as we go live here. So let's see. How do you support clients through change, such as career transition?
Yeah, so it's very similar to what I talked about. Is one of the great things is that we meet regularly once a week, and that hour is dedicated to my client. It's all about the client. They don't have to work with their kids. They don't have to worry about their work. It's just dedicated to whatever they're going through and helping them get to the next step of where they want to go. Mm-hmm. And whenever things come up, because when you have change, you have uncertainty, a lot of unknown, and that's scary. But you have someone like me who can just hold your hand and say, "Hey, I've been there. I know exactly what you're going through, and it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Let's tackle this head on, and remember why we're here. Why you want to be here, and let's get you closer to where you want to go."
Yes. And so do you think that's a great way to cope during this pandemic, is just to have that person just walking beside you going, you're going to be okay. We can get through this together.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and I think the other really big thing is grace. Give yourself some grace, because it's so crazy right now. This is, unprecedented, right? You hear that a lot. But listen, things are going to be crazy. Things are going to drop down. Your house is going to be messy. What can you let go of, I think, is something that's also really important. And yeah, have some grace with yourself.
That's a great point. And maybe breathe too. I know I hold my breath all the time. So that's always my tip. Breathe, breathe, breathe.
Yes. Actually, even just taking a few minutes just to take 3 breaths is it can actually help.
Yeah, yes, actually. So how can working moms find work-life balance, or does that even exist? And especially in the pandemic.
Yeah, I don't really think it existed before the pandemic. And it just gotten like worse, because now we all have to teach our children, for those of us school-age children. So I actually don't think balance exists, because there's really never a point where you have an equal weight of home and life. You may have a few moments where it's equal, but there are other terms that they're kind of out there talking about work-life harmony, work-life rhythm, that I think get a little closer to what we're trying to get to. But again, I think one of the small things that we can do without making big changes in our life are really about connection. It's about our well-being. If we can focus on those little things, we can cope better when things are just kind of at disarray, which is just, it's okay to be not okay. It's just kind of the way things are. And whenever we resist the way things are, that's when we start feeling kind of the pain and feeling uncomfortable, instead of just like, okay, things are crazy right now. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going to be, and I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, that is. And again, it's that grace to give ourselves, and and just maybe find that new rhythm. And that's what you're there for too, is to help find that rhythm, how to make it all work. And so one of the ladies, we're going to go to some of the questions that people are asking. I love having the questions here. Do you do one-on-one or groups, or do you do both?
Right now, I'm just doing one-on-ones.
Yeah. So tell me, if a woman, because a lot of people are doing a lot of transition, they're trying to make everything work. How am I going to have this job? Maybe that job doesn't work. So what would be one of the first steps if they're thinking of transitioning into something different?
Into something different?
Well, to a different career. Let's see. What would be the first step that they would do?
Yeah, I think that the first step, I guess, is decide, do you know what you want to go to? Or do you need to do some research to figure out what does that thing look like? And one of the things that I did is I just made a list of what are things that I want in my next career. It's often, sometimes we get stymied by, oh my gosh, I want to make this big change, and it just seems such a big deal. And then you kind of get frozen. You don't actually do anything. So you got to break it down into the smallest next step, and maybe even further into a micro step. What's the next thing you need to do? Do I need to sit down and look at job descriptions to get some ideas? Do I need to research, or do I need to do a values exercise? Do I need to just write down the top 5 things I want in my next role, the top 5 things I don't want in my next role? And so I think that would be my recommendation.
Those are some of the steps too that you help people walk through.
I'm sorry, you cut off just a little bit there, so I didn't quite hear that question.
Oh yeah, no worries. I know everything froze there for a second. So those would be like the steps that you help people walk through, is to identify whether they need to do more research, or some of those other things that you mentioned.
Yeah. So, one of when I talk to someone for the first time, we basically have a discovery session, get to know you session, but it's also a way to figure out, okay, where are you right now? Where do you want to be? What's in the middle? What's stopping you from getting there? And so we help really identify what those things are. And then we do more work to get really clear on it. And once we get clear on where you want to go, that's when we start breaking them down to those smaller steps, those micro steps. Okay, what do we need? What's the next action you want to take? And then if you get stopped in that action, then I'm there right with the clients, and okay, well, what's on the way? Let's work through this.
Yeah.
And so you're really always moving closer to your goal. It may not always feel like it, but when you have someone there, and I'm speaking from experience from helping clients and being coached myself. That is really invaluable. Just having that person there to walk you through, and also accountability, right? Every week you meet with a coach. Okay, well, what did you do, or what did you didn't do? It's okay, but let's talk about it.
Right. It's that accountability piece and taking that action, because I don't know if you find that women, we sometimes tend to think about things a lot. It's like, oh, it's got to be perfect. We've got to do this. And then we got to have the right mindset and whatever. And then we don't take the action.
Absolutely. I think women are, and I'm one of them, I overanalyze everything. And that's something that I'm constantly working on is my perfectionism. And we have this saying in the product marketing world, because I used to work with a lot of tech companies. Mm-hmm. It's called a minimum viable product. So I keep that in the back of my head. What's the minimum that I need to do to launch this? It doesn't have to be perfect. I can make changes later. But what's the minimum thing I need to do to get this off the ground or to finish that next step?
Mm-hmm. Oh, so wonderful. Just love having women like you to help us walk through life, to just keep us moving forward, and just having that support person next to us, to just, like you said, to have that accountability partner. And yeah, sometimes we have to pay for our accountability partners, because you're the expert to help us walk through and guide us that way.
Yeah. Well, sometimes too, it helps to have a little skin in the game, just to say, okay, I'm really going to commit to myself. It is an investment in yourself. And I know sometimes that feels uncomfortable as women to do that, but it is so worth it.
Yes. So let's move on. What books would you recommend? And
so my favorite book right now is called Fed Up: Women, Emotional Labor, and the Way Forward. It's by Gemma Hartley, and it's an amazing book. It talks about a lot of what we're going through right now. It talks about invisible labor and the mental load that women carry all the time. It's pretty eye-opening for me. I read it when I think my daughter was 3 or 6 months old. And just having that book to, like, when I was frustrated at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. There's actually a term for what I'm feeling. I have a mental load. I feel like I'm doing a lot of emotional labor. So that's probably the number one book that I would recommend. And then if you want more book recommendations, I'm actually launching a Busy Mom book club. I read the books so that you don't have to, because I know a lot of moms love to read, but they don't have time. So I'm going to do monthly video book reviews, and I will read the books, and then I'll give you some actionable tips and the big idea from the book. And then you can either decide for yourself if you want to read it or you just want to take the tips and run.
I love that, and so you get to kind of go in there and get the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, exactly. It's on my website, but you can go to my website. You can sign up for the wait list. It launches next month. But yeah, I just love to read, and I really wanted to give that gift back to busy moms, because I know not everybody has the time to read all the amazing books that are out there.
I hear you. People are always recommending books to me, and it's hard to find the time. I mean, I would love to read them all, but you can only do so much. And when you're launching a business, so we have somebody else read them. I like that idea. That's awesome. Awesome. So we're going to end here. So what is your favorite job search or interview tip for maybe somebody who is actually taking those steps and moving forward with finding a new career?
So I know I hate to say this, but I've been unemployed a lot in my career. But the good news is that I'm really confident in the job search. And one of the things that helped me the most when I had first gone to my career coach is she gave me this mantra, and it's, I'm looking for the perfect job for me at the perfect time. And so what I love about this is that it reminds me to have faith that if that door doesn't open, it's not my door. And that there'll be another perfect job for me down the road. And so you kind of don't hold on to that expectation that I got to get this job. And you're like, oh, it's okay. It's not the perfect time, or it's not the perfect job. And I can just continue on with that positive attitude and that positive mindset, which just helps a lot, especially with everything going around now.
That is a great way to end our conversation today. I love that. Oh my goodness, such those positive words, that positive mindset. That's what we're all about here at Faith Lifestyles, is inspiring women to live their best life. Becca, tell us, how can women connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on my Facebook page, Becca Adler Coaching, or you can find me on my website, beccaadler.com. And I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming and joining us today. You have some great tips for the ladies and some inspiration, and it's just been a joy talking with you today. So, ladies, we will see you next time at Faith Lifestyles. Have a great day.